The most dangerous mistakes in trading are not the ones you don't know. They are the ones you know you shouldn't make, but somehow make anyway. After years in the market, you learn the patterns. You learn risk management. You learn what not to do. You study your mistakes. You write the rules. You promise yourself that next time will be different. But then pressure arrives. A losing position. A missed opportunity. The fear of being wrong. And suddenly, the person making the decision does not feel like the same person who wrote the rules. So the question is not, do we know what to do? The real question is, why do we sometimes become someone else when it matters most? I believed experience would solve the problem. More charts, more books, more screen time, more discipline. I thought every mistake would eventually disappear. Some did. Most did. But not all of them. Years later, I opened my old journals, not to study the market, to study myself. That was the moment I noticed something strange. The market had changed. The strategies had changed. Even I had changed. But some mistakes were still exactly the same. That was the moment I stopped asking, why did I break my rules? And started asking a different question. Who was making the decision? Because the person who writes the plan is calm, patient, logical. But the person who faces uncertainty is not always the same person. Nothing around me had changed. The desk was the same. The charts were the same. The rules were the same. The only thing that had changed was me. First, I thought I was reviewing trades. I wasn't. I was reviewing patterns, different years, different markets, different strategies, different outcomes, but the same reactions, the same hesitation, the same need to be right, the same refusal to accept a small loss. That was the moment everything changed. The market wasn't repeating itself. I used to think discipline was something you either had or you didn't. Now I think I was wrong, because every morning I was disciplined. I made good plans. I knew my limits. I knew my rules. But the person who made those promises wasn't always the person making the next decision. Pressure doesn't create a new personality. It reveals one that was already there. And maybe that's the person I've been avoiding all along. For a long time, I thought this was my weakness, until I discovered something unexpected. Researchers had been asking the same question for decades. Why do intelligent people make decisions they already know are wrong? Not traders. Humans. Pilots. Doctors. Athletes. Investors. Different professions. Different lives. The same pattern. Under pressure. Knowledge doesn't disappear. Access to it does. Maybe the problem was never knowledge. Maybe knowledge was there all along. Think of your mind as a library. Every lesson, every mistake, every rule you've ever learned is still on the shelf. Nothing is missing. But pressure has a strange effect. It doesn't burn the library. It simply locks the door. And in the few moments when your decisions matter most, you can only reach what panic allows you to remember. Maybe I had been asking the wrong question. Maybe the problem wasn't that my brain failed me. Maybe it was doing exactly what it was designed to do. For most of human history, uncertainty wasn't expensive. It was dangerous. A wrong decision could cost your life. Waiting too long, trusting the wrong signal, ignoring a warning, could mean there was no second chance. That brain still lives inside us. It doesn't always know the difference between a real threat and a rapidly moving market. This first priority has never been performance. This first priority has always been survival. Then I noticed something else. The people I admired didn't seem fearless. They noticed the same uncertainty. They felt the same pressure. Their hearts probably beat faster too. The difference wasn't the feeling. The difference was the space between the feeling and the decision. That space was only a few seconds. But inside those few seconds, something changed. Not the market. Not the risk. The person making the decision. Maybe the problem was never that we lacked information. Maybe the problem was that important decisions arrive too fast. The market moves. The screen changes. The opportunity appears. The fear appears. And in a few seconds, we are asked to make a decision about something that could affect our future. For thousands of years, speed meant survival. React quickly. Move away from danger. Protect yourself. But the same instinct that helped humans survive can become a weakness when the danger is only uncertainty. Sometimes, the fastest decision is not the smartest one. For years, I looked at my mistakes like a judge. I searched for someone to blame. The market. The timing. The strategy. But I started looking at my decisions differently. Not as failures. As information. I stopped asking, why did I do this? And started asking, what happened inside me before I did this? Because the moment before the decision is where the real story begins. The chart shows what happened, but the mind explains why. The goal was never to remove fear. Fear is part of being human. The goal was to create a small space before acting. A space where awareness could enter. Because between a feeling and a decision, there is a moment. Most people never notice it. They move from emotion straight into action. But experienced decision makers learn to recognize that space. Not because they feel less, because they see more. For a long time, I thought the best traders were the ones who could predict the future. But maybe that was the wrong idea. The market was never designed to give certainty. No amount of experience can remove uncertainty completely. A good decision can still lose. A bad decision can still win. The difference is understanding that outcomes do not always reveal the quality of the decision. The goal was never to control the market. The goal was to make better decisions, while knowing control was impossible. After all this time, I realized I was searching for the wrong answer. I thought the problem was the market, the volatility, the uncertainty, the unexpected moves. But the market was only doing what the market does. The real challenge was understanding the person who was making decisions inside it. A trader does not fail because they have emotions. They fail when they do not understand those emotions. Fear is not the enemy. Uncertainty is not the enemy. The danger is making permanent decisions while being controlled by temporary states of mind. The final verdict was simple. The market was never the thing I needed to defeat. I needed to understand myself first. The market did not become easier. The uncertainty did not disappear. The fear did not vanish. And maybe they were never supposed to. The goal was never to become a person who feels nothing. It was to become a person who understands what they feel. Because every decision begins before the click, before the entry, before the exit. It begins with the person behind the decision. The market will always test your strategy. But before that, it will test your understanding of yourself. And maybe the greatest advantage a trader can build is not knowing more about the market. It is knowing more about the person facing it.